Hey guys, welcome back to another video, and in today's video we're gonna be doing some Photoshop and Lightroom, and we're gonna turn this image into this. We're going to fix different exposures in a group photo, and we're also gonna play around with some film emulation. So let's get right into it. Right, so I prepared a set of images in Adobe Lightroom. You can see over here we have this little forest scene with the motorcycle coming down the middle. We have a shot in front of the volcano with this lady in a costume outfit standing right at the edge, and then we have a wedding photo. We have a family shot, mother and baby, and we have this group photo which is from a graduation photo shoot. So we're gonna start off here with this shot with the motorcycle. So usually I like to leave the cropping process right to the end, but in this case you can see here that the motorcycle is just slightly off center, and it kind of really bugs me a little bit. So I'm gonna go ahead and just crop the image so that the motorcycle is right in the middle first. That's the first thing that I am going to do. And then the next thing I'm gonna do is that I want to give this image kind of a dreamy, hazy, light filtering through the trees kind of effect. So what I'm gonna do first is I am actually gonna reduce the exposure. Let's just bring it down a little bit. Reduce the contrast just to make it dreamy, nice, soft and dreamy look. I'm going to go down and I'm going to lower the clarity right about so, and I'm going to add in a little haze as well. So that looks good. You kind of have that nice, soft, dreamy effect, and just to even enhance that flavor a little bit more, I'm going to go down to my tone curve and I'm going to click on the end of the curve right here at the edge. I'm going to bring it up here and I'm going to pull this downwards a little bit. So what this does is that it's just going to bring up the black point so that the blacks are, the darkest point in the image is going to be slightly brighter. And what I'm going to do next is that I'm going to create a mask. So I'm going to click on the mask tool. Let's go to linear gradient and I'm going to draw a mask right about so. Let me bring it up a little higher. Let me just zoom out. Alright, let's just bring that in. Okay, so for the mask, what I'm going to do is I'm going to increase the exposure. I'm going to increase the contrast as well. Let me bring back the view. And then what I'm going to do is that I'm going to increase the highlights. So you get the nice bright light coming in. I'm going to bring down the shadows. So I really want to get that a little bit of detail in the trees. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to increase the texture a little bit just so that these little leaves, the little plants right here would be a bit more obvious. And I still want to retain that dreamy look. So let's see, where am I? So I'm going to reduce the clarity, bring that down just a little bit. Alright, and the next thing I'm going to do, which is super important, is that I'm going to add in a bit of warmth to the image. So kind of just to simulate that effect of that warm sunlight coming down. So that looks good enough. And right, alright, that looks good. So I just want to bring back a little bit of that detail on the rider himself. So what I'm going to do is that I am going to use a radial gradient just to select him and just to mask the rider. Alright, that looks good. I'm going to bring down the shadows a little bit around him. Increase the clarity and a little bit of the haze back so that you just get that nice detail back in the rider. And I'm going to do a bit of reversing the mask. So I'm going to right click over here and I'm going to duplicate and invert mask. So right now I am affecting everything outside the motorcycle. So let's bring down exposure a little bit so we have a bit of V-adding in the image. I'm going to decrease the highlights, decrease the shadows, and I'm going to bring up the whites. Alright, and I just feel that I can just push a little bit more of that warmth into the image. So Let's see where, this is the point where we started. Just going to increase it like this. And so that's it. Let's look at how it looks like before we did any changes. This is the before and this is the after. I think we can decrease the clarity. Alright, so I'm going to add in a little bit of a fake sun glow effect to the image. So I'm going back to my mask tool, hit the plus sign over here, and I'm going to choose the radial gradient again. And I'm just going to draw in this fake sun over here, let's say thereabouts. And I'm going to increase the exposure over there, a little warmth. And I'm going to bring down the contrast, bring down the clarity, and a little bit of dehaze as well. Alright, that looks good. It looks pretty nice. Yeah, I think that's it. So I'm really happy with the changes to this image. This is what it looks like before, and this is what it looks like after. You get that nice, soft, dreamy effect. I think I just want to crop the image a little bit more. So if you do not know, you can actually hit the letter O key on the keyboard to change between this the cropping tool overlays. So let's see, it's something like this. That doesn't work for me. Like this. Alright, that looks good. So this is what it looks like before I did the changes in Photoshop, and this is what it looks like before the adjustments in Lightroom, and this is what it looks like afterwards. So alright, let's move on to the next image. Alright, so we're going to move on to the next shot, which is this photo of this lady standing at the edge of a volcano in front of this beautiful tree, beautiful scene that was shot in Indonesia. So I'm going to start off with just increasing the exposure. Alright, that looks good. A little bit of the shadows. You can see here that she has a little bit of a stain, probably from the dust of the surrounding area. So we're going to get rid of that by hitting the remove tool. I'm going to use generative AI and see whether it works out well for us in this case. Let me just mask out the area. Alright, hit apply. Alright, that worked fantastic. It's completely removed the stains. So I'm going to zoom back out again, and like as with the previous shot, I'm going for something a little bit dreamy and a little bit like out of focus kind of effect. So I'm going to decrease the clarity once again. Now, don't do this for every shot. It's just that for the first two photos in this example, it seems like just the dreamy look just go along very well for these photos. So yeah, that looks pretty good. I do want to brighten up the tree a little bit, so I'm going to try out Lightroom's masking subject detection function. Let's see how well it does it. You can see that it does select the person as well as some parts of the tree, but there are some areas that are not masked. So what I'm going to do is that I'm going to hit this plus button over here, and I'm going to click on the brush, and I'm just going to trace out the tree. So I can probably do a much better job given the time, but since that this is a tutorial video and I'm not really properly editing this shot for my own work, I'm just going to do a pretty fast, quick job over here. So with the tree selected, I'm going to increase the shadows a little bit so the tree is brightened up. Alright, that looks good. Fantastic. Might be a little bit too dreamy on the tree itself and on the person, so I'm just going to bring back a little bit of that clarity and texture. Alright, and I kind of want a little bit of a blue, very cool feeling to this shot, so I'm going to reduce the white balance. I'm going to turn it a little bit more blue. That looks good. Okay, so the next thing we're going to do is that we're going to add in yet another vignetting. Similar to the photos that we did earlier, go back to radial gradient. So I'm going to make a mask that kind of covers our subject here with the tree around. Alright, I want to brighten her up just a little bit. That looks good. And we're going to click on the mask. We're going to click on duplicate and invert mask again, and I'm going to bring down exposure just to have that little vignetting effect. So that looks good already. I'm pretty happy with this image. But I'm going to take it a step further, and this time I'm going to use a Lightroom plugin. It's called Dehancer. So what Dehancer does is that it's a film emulation plugin for Photoshop and Lightroom. And we're going to play around with some film emulations to see whether we can add a film effect to this image to make it look even better. So I'm going to right click on the image, edit in, and Dehancer Lightroom plugin. So what Dehancer does is that it's going to create a copy of the image itself. So you can see it's going to create a TIFF copy of the image. Alright, so right now we are in Dehancer plugin itself. You can see on the left side it has a number of film emulations. We can just click on it to see the effect that it does have on the photo. Some of it looks way overboard, like this is just far too much noise, too much grain. And there's quite a few options that's already preloaded into Dehancer. Let's find something that looks pretty nice. Some of the film presets that I like to use, Effort HP5 for black and white is pretty good, but not for this shot. I like the blue tones. Acta 25 is one of my favorites. It looks good for this image. A little bit too much noise, but we can, a little bit too much grain, I mean, but we can address that later. Let's find something that I like for this shot. So you know what, we're going to go back up and we're going to look at, let's see. Alright, we're going to look at this Afgha 200. It looks good, not way too overblown. And on the right side, you can see we have a set of adjustments. So the difference between the adjustments in Dehancer and Lightroom is that the entire design philosophy for Dehancer is that they want to simulate the darkroom experience with pushing and pulling your images. So you can see we have exposure compensation, temperature, stuff like that, all that good stuff. Film developer, increase or decrease the contrast right here. So I'm going to bring down the contrast a little bit because I feel that the contrast was a little bit too heavy. Gamma correction, I'm going to just leave it. Impact white point, we are going to change our black point because I like my shadows to be, my black point, excuse me, to be a bit brighter. So we're going to bring that towards the side. Alright, that looks good. I'm going to increase the exposure because somewhere in the process it seems to change our exposure settings. And we're not going to be applying all of these changes, maybe just a few of it. It's a little bit too grainy, so I'm going to bring down the grain itself. Alright, and you can see that I'm not going to change many of these settings, but you can see that there's a lot you can do. You can add a bloom to it, halation, you can even add some film damage. You know, you can create some stretches or some hair effects. If you want to, you can see it looks like the film has been heavily damaged, but it's pretty interesting. I don't think I want it in this photo, so I'm just going to turn that off, and we're just going to hit OK. Alright, so we're back in Lightroom over here. You can see that what the Dehancer plugin does is that it creates a duplicate of the image with all the settings that you have applied. So this is the film version with Dehancer applied, and this right here is the Adobe Lightroom version. So you can see that this actually has our film effect with the grain and all. I'm just going to add in just a little bit of adjustments. Alright, that looks good, and now that I look at it, I'm not sure which one you prefer. Let me know in the comments. But I like the film effect one because it has this very dreamy kind of look. Whereas now that I look at it, my original image edited in Adobe Lightroom, it looks a little bit too HD. I like the film image for this. Both images might have its place depending on how you use it, but let me know in the comments which one you prefer. Alright, next up is a photo taken during an actual day wedding. This shot of this beautiful couple, just in case you can't tell what's happening in the photo, this is actually a mirror, and I positioned the couple so that they are standing opposite the mirror. You can see their reflection. Inside it looks like they're having this tender, intimate moment together. So we're gonna jump right straight into the Dehancer with this image. Let's see what we can do with it. Alright, we're back here in Dehancer, and we're just going to take a look at some of the presets, see whether we can find something that we like. Wedding traditionally is a genre where film effect is used very common. I think it's gone a little bit out of fashion for the time being, but it can still create some wonderful photos if you're so inclined. Let's see here. Alright, so we're going to go with the Codex Ultramax 400. The shadows are a little bit too deep here, so once again we are going to increase the exposure. I'm going to increase the exposure, and we are going to bring the black point back up a little bit. Yes, that looks good. Just play around the tonal range. I just want to get that more even lighting across on their faces. So the film effect, the grain is a bit far too much for my liking. You can see here it's pretty heavy, so I'm going to bring it down a little bit. Just bring down the size of the grain. Alright, let's see here now. That looks pretty good. You have that very soft, warm effect, which I really like. So we're just going to bring a little bit more glow to the image. Now that looks good. Alright, and once again, I like to keep my edits subtle, so I'm not going to do too much. I think I'm going to hit OK on Dehancer, and we're going to continue working with this in Lightroom. Alright, so now we're back in Lightroom, and you can see that this is the copy TIFF image that Dehancer has created. And I'm going to take a moment to talk about this, because this is something that I feel is a downside of using Dehancer, and that is it actually doesn't work with Lightroom adjustments. It works with creating a copy of the file and then editing the image in its own plugin. And that's a disadvantage, because when you're shooting a wedding, you're dealing with hundreds of images. It would be much easier, to have the film simulation edits, within the Lightroom adjustments itself, than to have a copy of all that hundreds of photos, just to create that film emulation preset. So I've emailed Dehancer to ask them whether they have a way around this. Currently, that's just the way it works. There's methods to do batch editing, but whatever you do in Dehancer, it's kind of built into the system that it needs to create a copy of the file. So that is one downside of Dehancer, which is a fantastic piece of software. So I hope it's something that they fix, soon after this. But let's carry on with the editing itself. So I like it, I like this nice soft film effect. Look at the original image. It's pretty much, original image looks very modern, very HD. But the film version just have this very nice soft glow and feeling to it, which is definitely not there in the original version. Let's just increase the clarity a little bit. Alright, I think that's good. So I like to play around a little bit with Lightroom's masking. So let's create a mask just by hitting subject. You can see that it's done a wonderful job of just selecting the people in the shots. So I'm going to change up a little bit, just make them a little bit brighter. Increase the clarity. And once again, I'm going to right click, invert the mask. Everything else is selected, so I'm going to just lower exposure. And reduce the contrast, or increase the contrast. That looks good too. No, let's reduce the contrast. Bring down the highlights. Alright, so that looks pretty happy with the shot. So this is the original shot with some light edits in Lightroom, and this is the shot after the film emulation in Dehancer. Once again, I feel like both versions of the photo, of course I didn't spend much time editing the Lightroom only version, but I think that both versions have its merits, and really depends on the style and look that you're going for. Dehancer does a good job of film emulations, but right now I'm pretty happy with this. Guys, so this is the next photo that we're going to be working on. This was shot during my video review for the 135 Planner, Nikon 135 Planner f1.8. So this time we're going to start from Photoshop. I have the photo right here already loaded into Photoshop. So in order to get Dehancer going, I'm going to click on Filter and Dehancer Film. So we're back here in Dehancer, and it looks exactly the same as when you launch it from Lightroom. It looks like the same plugin. So we're going to be looking around on the left side once again. We're going to find a film emulation that we like. Once again, I prefer something that is a little bit subtle, not too heavy on the eyes. Like some of this warmer looks does look really, really good. So I might go for something like this. But then again, like I mentioned before, Kodak Portra is one of my favorites. So I'm going to go ahead with the Kodak Portra this time around. Now as I'm working with Dehancer, I find myself wishing that there is this preset slider that you can adjust the amount of the Dehancer adjustments that's being applied to the folder. There is no such slider that I am aware of, which is rather unfortunate. If you're working with adjustments in Lightroom, there's actually a slider that you can adjust the intensity of the preset. But in this case, it looks like there is no slider for that purpose. So we're going to have to adjust everything manually. So I'm going to start with playing around with all these settings. White point, let's bring it around. So the amount of grain it does seem to be a little bit too intense for me right now, so I'm just going to bring that down right off the bat. Alright, that looks better. And you can see we have print here. This is Dehancer trying to simulate different kinds of paper print. So we're not printing this image, so I just want to adjust it to a level where it looks good on my screen itself. So alright, that looks good. I'm just going to leave it here as it is. I'm going to save this, and then we're going to see the differences in Adobe Lightroom. Alright, so there we have it. This is the difference in Adobe Lightroom. This is the original image, and this is the image with the film simulation. It looks a little bit underexposed. So I'm just going to bring back the exposure a little bit back up. And yeah, just a little fainter colors, a little old school feel to it. That's the kind of feeling that you get from the Kodak Portra preset. In this case, I might prefer the original image. Film emulation might not be my cup of tea for this image. I'm also finding myself wishing that there are easier ways to use Dehancer without having a copy of every single file, and it's just to have easier ways of managing the film emulation it would have been so much easier. But we're going to go on, and we're going to take a look at what other images that we have. Alright guys, we are finally at the last image, and if you made it so far in the video, you like what you see, why not just give the video a like and subscribe to the channel. You can check out my Instagram for my other work as well. So this photo is a photo taken during a graduation photo shoot. So the backstory is that we were going through the shoot when it started raining halfway, so there wasn't that much space to shoot outdoors. We have to go indoors, but indoors it was pretty dark. We only have less than an hour to shoot, so there wasn't any time to set up any additional lighting. So I opted to shoot at this at the side of the building where you have the light coming in from the outside, and then we have these chairs for the groups of people to sit down on. But the thing is that you get a little bit of uneven lighting because you have the outdoor light that's coming in, and the people who are standing behind will receive slightly lesser light due to the fact that they're standing deeper inside the building. So I'm gonna show you guys how I correct that in Adobe Lightroom, and yeah, we're gonna use once again the very fantastic subject detection tool in Lightroom. So we're gonna come straight here. We're gonna click on the masking tool. And this time we're going to wait for this people tab over here to just populate. So alright, you can see that everybody has been masked out conveniently. So we're going to select person 2 right here, and make sure the entire person is selected. And I'm going to click on create mask. So that allows me to just make an adjustment just for this one person. So I'm going to increase the exposure for him. bring up the warmth a little bit more, and he looks a little bit green, you know, due to the difference in lighting from indoors to outdoors. So I'm going to add in a little bit of magenta as well, and that looks good. And I'm going to create another mask. Once again, go click on the plus sign and click on select people. And the pregnant lady sitting closest to me, you know, closest towards where the light was coming in, she looks just a little bit overexposed, in the sense that you cannot see, there's no shadow definition on her face. So we're going to bring down the exposure on her just a little bit. Shadows as well. Alright, that is slightly better. I think we can bring it down just a little bit more. Alright, that's good. And now we can proceed with editing the rest of the image. So one of the first things that I'm going to do is that I am actually going to go down to the transform tool. I'm going to hit auto, see if Adobe does a good job of correcting the image. It seems to have done a pretty decent job. So one of the things that is really going to bug me if I do not correct it is that, you know, this line at the edge of the image, it doesn't line up properly with the this wooden beam over here. So we are going to crop it out, and just like this. It looks good. Again, you can see the verticals are still not very well corrected, so I'm gonna just fix that in a moment. Let's move the vertical line slightly this way. No, that still doesn't work. Alright, so what we're gonna do this time, we're gonna try using the guided option over in transform. So I'm gonna click on this wooden beam right here, make sure I got it accurately selected, and stretch it all the way to the bottom and let go. Once again over here. So what this does is that it tells Lightroom that is where the vertical straight lines are supposed to be, and you can see that after I let go of the mouse, it's just fixed itself. So that looks really good. Now, I'm not a huge fan of the exposure and the lighting that's going on in this photo, so I'm going to click on the mask tool again. We're going to create a vignette once again. So just to make sure to just cover everybody in general, we're going to increase the exposure just a little bit down with the highlights. Maybe just warm up everybody's faces. That's good. You know what? I'm going to go back there to this person again and reduce the warmth on his face. And we're going to go back up. Alright. Okay, that looks good. Once again, click on the mask, duplicate and invert mask. I'm going to bring a negative vignette. Alright, that looks good. There's a little bit of light coming in here, and it's just attracting my eye towards the bottom left corner of the photo. So we're going to get rid of that with another mask. This time I'm going to choose a linear gradient. I'm going to put that right there, and we are going to bring down the highlights over there. That looks good, and exposure. Alright, that looks good. So overall, the effect that you get right now from this picture is that you get the sense that the people are actually the brightest in the image overall, and it just attracts your eye towards where the people are. I think it can be improved slightly, so I'm going to go back and I'm going to click on select subject. So in this case, it should select everybody now in the photo. There's a little bit of masking that's not done accurately, but I think we can get away with that. I mean, if you're not happy with it, just click the minus sign, go to the brush tool, and we can just brush this away. A little bit down here. Alright, that looks good. And we're just going to increase the exposure for everyone just a little bit more. Just a little bit, not too much. Okay, again, I want to bring down the highlights, and the reason why I keep bringing down the highlights is that I want to make sure that there is definition, there's like light and shadow on everybody's faces. So yeah, a little bit down with the shadows. Yeah, so what we are getting overall is this mid-tone effect that's increased, and I think I'm happy with the masking for now. Maybe a little bit too heavy-handed. Alright, that looks good. I think I'm happy with the masking for now. So the next thing I want to do is to get rid of this person at the edge of the frame. So I selected my remove tool. I'm going to use my generative AI. Hopefully it does a good job. If not, we would have to bring this into Photoshop. So let's see. Not great. It looks decent. Oh, okay, that looks good. And there's another head over here that I want to get rid of. So let's see if Adobe Lightroom will do that for us. Alright, that's fantastic. I actually don't have to do it in Lightroom. So this is looking pretty good already. There's a lot more that can be done to enhance the photo. I'm not going to go through everything now. I'm just going to do a little bit of slight adjustments, and we're going to call it a day on this photo. So that looks good. We're not going to touch the tone curve. Alright, we're going to go into detail. Sharpening, you can see that there is some weird settings applied in the sharpening tab. That's because I shot this in Nikon's rich portrait color tone mode, whatever it's called. So it's applying its own presets, which I do not really like. So I'm going to change it. I'm going to bring up sharpening to about 100. Radius is going to be about 1 or 1.1, 1.2. Alright, we're going to go with 1.1, and we're going to go to detail. Just increase that a bit. I don't want too much. You can hold the option key to see what exactly you're doing to the image, and of course masking as well. Hold down option to see exactly what are the areas that you are affecting right now. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to add in a little bit. Whoa, noise reduction is way up, so we're going to bring that down a little bit. Alright, make sure everyone looks nice and natural. So pretty much almost happy. The image is just that we have a little bit too much space on the left side, so I'm just going to correct it, and that looks pretty good. You might want to warm up the entire image. Yes, that looks much better. Does it need a little bit more magenta? It does need a little bit of magenta. Alright, and I am done. Now this isn't the final image that I'm going to submit to the client. I will do a little bit more cleaning up if that were the case, but this is just to show you guys how I would match exposures across everybody's faces in a group photo, especially in situations like this where there are people who are standing closer to the light so that they're brighter, and there's people behind who are in the darker areas. But for now, I'm pretty happy with this image. Alright guys, thanks so much for watching. If you're interested in Dehancer, they also have film emulation for video. So it will work with Final Cut Pro or Premiere Pro or whatever app that you're using for video editing. They also have apps for your mobile phone, so iOS, it all works as well. If you want to see the high resolution images from today's editing session, I will post them in my blog, so do check out my blog. As always guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I'll see you guys next time.